Defect in less than 3 weeks or you'll end up dead. Armed Syrian gangs adopt assassinations as a strategy for getting what they want. A colonel with the foreign-backed militant group calling itself the Free Syrian Army says he has given government forces and officials until the end of this month to defect or face assassination. Those who don't will be considered as collaborators in alleged violence by the government. Meanwhile, an officer within the anti-Syrian force says the group is receiving weapons from Lebanon, Turkey and Iraq. The officers calling for more sophisticated weapons to inflict more damage on Damascus. He says the force has paid thousands of dollars to arms dealers in Iraq and Lebanon to buy Katyusha rockets and anti-tank missiles. Damascus has for long accused the rebels of being terrorists and receiving assistance from Turkey, Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, the Syrian army says it's killed a large number of anti-government gunmen and arrested dozens in the west of the country. The captured armed men have admitted that they have entered the area before the army and attacked law enforcement personnel.
Nearly 300 armed men gathered in the town 20 days ago. They planned to attack law enforcement personnel, block roads, and force the people to go on a strike. On Thursday morning, we heard that the army surrounded the town. We tried to escape, but we couldn't. We got orders to attack the army. We clashed with them for an hour and a half. Some armed men were killed and others were captured. I was among the captured.
Earlier reports spoke of a massacre in Al Turay Misa area in Hama province, but anti-government sources confirmed that most of those killed were members of armed gangs. Syria has been gripped by more than 60 months of unrest, which has left thousands of people dead. Opposition groups blame Damascus for the violence. That's while the government blames foreign-backed terrorists. Well, for more on this, I'm joined from Washington by Webster Tarpley. He's an author and historian. Welcome to the programme, sir. Dr. Tarpley, we recently saw a massacre take place in the city of Tiramisu, which many liken to the Hula massacre. Well, despite that, the question is that who benefits from such crimes?
I think it's clear that NATO and the armed opposition, the death squads in effect, are the ones that benefit from these actions. And I would caution everybody to realize that most of the reports that we get from Syria are totally unreliable. And this has to do with the corruption of the Western media and also with the school of journalism that is based on activists say, right? In this current conflict, when you hear a report that starts with activists say, that is the equivalent of an embedded reporter, say, during the Afghan war or during the Iraq war. Now, so far we're told, with widely different estimates of the victims, that 100, 200, or 250 would have been killed in this village that you mentioned. At the same time, though, there are already, in the early phase, reports that diverge from the official story. NATO claims that this is a massacre carried out by Assad, but there are other reports in the international media that say that the majority of those killed were Assad supporters and that the massacre was cynically carried out by opposition fighters who know that they benefit, because whenever anybody's killed in Syria, naturally the controlled Western media blame that on Assad. Another version of it is that the Syrian army was passing through this village, came under heavy attack, successfully counterattacked, and in the process there were a number of victims from among the ranks of the Free Syrian Army and the other death squads. I would also urge people to go back and look at recent cases. There was a massacre in the Hama area in April, which has now been attributed to the rebels, not to the pro-Assad forces. In Hula, we have the large massacre at the end of April. The United Nations official Paul Pinheiro has already conceded that there's no evidence at all that that was done by Assad forces. We've also got John Williams of the BBC with a memo, which has been not widely circulated, but he says that the BBC coverage of the Hula massacre was completely without basis in evidence. It was based on propaganda from the opposition groups. And we've got the most authoritative, the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, leading conservative newspaper in Germany, that pretty much categorically states the Hula massacre was carried out by the Free Syrian Army and other related groups. We've also got the fact that when the Hula massacre occurred, the BBC posted a photograph which actually showed a massacre by U.S. forces in Iraq almost 10 years before, and they put that up. It had been the work of Marco Di Laudo of Getty Images. So the eagerness of the Western media to portray massacres, I think, betrays who actually carries these things out. It's done under the auspices of NATO.
Indeed. You spoke of the Free Syrian Army. I mean, we have the opposition, the Free Syrian Army, openly saying that it will use assassinations to reach its objectives. I mean, why, when it is openly speaking of using force and aggression, is the opposition not condemned, neither by the US nor the UN?
Well, this, of course, reflects the hypocrisy of Hillary Clinton, Haig, Fabius, and others, right? Davutoglu, I'm afraid, falls into the same category. It also has to do with the methodology of the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, because they are, in some ways, the world flagship of these reports. And naturally, for Mr. Rahman, who operates out of Coventry, England, anybody killed in Syria is automatically a victim of Assad. There are no exceptions. And this is really Orwellian, because at the same time, we know that there are armed gangs, death squads in Syria, al-Qaeda members. They're armed by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, under the supervision of CIA case officers. I would urge people, take a look at The Guardian, right? The London Guardian of the UK. Look at that website today. There's an excellent article by Charlie Skelton. And Charlie Skelton in this article goes through who the Syrian opposition is. And one of the people that he talks about is Mr. Rahman of the Syrian Observatory. It is widely reported that that guy is a close friend of Rifat Assad, who is, of course, the renegade brother of the former president of Syria.
Right, and finally, very briefly, if you can, Doctor, I mean, Russia has been pushing to get Iran involved in this scenario. I mean, what is there that Iran can do that others cannot?
Well, I think Iran, along with Russia, along with China, can contribute to the creation of a bloc of states in the world that simply refuse this blackmail. You can see Hillary Clinton this afternoon has been screaming that now it is imperative, it's incumbent on Russia and China to collapse, to give up their opposition in the Security Council against Chapter 7 measures, in other words, against an invasion, bombing, and a large-scale war. I think the more countries that participate in that, the better it is, and I think Iran has an important role to play there. But I think that it's quite possible that the imperialists have overplayed their hand now, and that their methods are becoming more and more known and more discredited. So that's another important function.
Indeed. Well, on that note, we'll leave it there. Many thanks to Dr. Webster Griffin Tarpley, author and historian from Washington.
Thank you.